Hey guys, Zomfox here, and it's time to do another, a theoretical video about the UFL. Now, this is a video that I actually got pretty inspired by a comment who asked me to do a video kind of like this. It's not necessarily the exact same thing. Essentially, Dark Zero Shadow 79 put a comment asking that, to read it directly, I have a great idea for a video for you. Say you were able to start a 16-team league off the bat. Where would you play, and what would the team names be? But be realistic about it because of the stadiums. I'd love to see your video idea. And he gives his example of it. This is inspired by it, but this is not necessarily his idea exactly. This is going to be looking at all the teams and cities available to us from the XFL and USFL and making what would be, in theory, the best 16-team league to start the UFL. It's very evident to a lot of people that the end goal seems to be getting back to 16 total teams and then worry about legit expansion, adding teams to potentially Oakland, San Diego, bringing back teams like the Arizona Wranglers. So, what 16 teams would be best to start this league off? Note, this is not based on anything we've seen. This is assuming every one of these teams would have great fans and be profitable. It's just, in theory, what is the best 16 teams to have for a league to start and succeed. So without further ado, let's start with the four corner teams. Again, this is saying every one of these teams is profitable and successful. When you're looking at a league, the first thing you got to note is get the corners done. This allows you to expand anywhere within the country and it not really be a big deal about, oh, it's really far away, because they're all already as far as you can be. That would mean that naturally the Seattle Sea Dragons and the LA Wildcats would come back. They're the only teams that have come into the modern USFL or the new XFL that can actually go there. There's no other LA teams or really any West teams for the USFL so far. There are teams that are defunct that, went down with the old one that haven't been brought back, but that would be what I'd say in terms of a later expansion. Then on the eastern side, Florida, I'd bring back the Orlando Guardians, and then for the New Jersey area or New York, I put the Generals. This gives you the foothold in pretty much three of the major markets. It's not in New York, but considering the fact that the Jets and Giants aren't even New York teams either and get a ton of press because they're, kind of New York teams. You know what I mean? They're not in New York, but they're New York. That can be pretty much like the Generals, like they used to be back in the original USFL. So this would give you the four corners, essentially. This would allow you to fully build an actual league. And this starts by how I would have the division alignment. But now let's go to another batch of four teams. Now let's add the Vipers back to Vegas. Let's add the Panthers back to Detroit. And then, of course, the Birmingham Stallions and the DC Defenders. So doing this, you can kind of see where I'm getting at. This is going to be pretty much the base of the four divisions that I would have in this league. So this would allow us to have another team out west to create the start of a true West division, as well as giving us a team in the South and another northern team for the USFL, while also providing the East teams for the XFL. Now you're getting at what I would do for the 16-team league. Now, the next four teams to bring back are some of the more popular teams that feature, around the center of the U.S. The Breakers, the Showboats, the Battlehawks, and one that isn't, the Bandits. Now, yes, the map site I used, it's kind of wonky with how they did Florida. Yes, Tampa is technically in that green area, but it is the southern part, so just note that that's kind of how that went. So yes, I'd bring back the Bandits as well, put two teams in Florida, and then bring back the Breakers, Showboats, and Battlehawks. So doing this now, you get a very good basis. You already have one division fully filled out in the USFL South Division, and you get another team added to the East Division for the XFL. Of course, the Showboats, Breakers, Battlehawks are three of the more popular teams, and the Bandits would just make sense to have a second team in Texas, as you'll see when we get to the next four teams. In the final four, bringing back the two Texas teams and the two Pennsylvania teams. Yes, I would not bring back the Brahmas, just because I feel like when you're looking at Texas, even though technically for making an East-West division, it'd make more sense to bring back the Brahmas, but at this point, it's looking at, is it worth it? They are the least historic of those three teams in Texas. The Renegades just won a championship. The Roughnecks, I would say, are overall more popular than the Brahmas at this point. So yes. And then the two Pennsylvania teams. So this would be the map that I would have. Now, again, same thing with the Houston, Arlington thing about where the cities are, yada yada. Bit weird, but essentially this would give you a 16-team league that you can legit start out with. Yes, you have that entire kind of, central Midwest area that's kind of barren. But that would be the area available for you for expansion in the future. This 16-team group, I think of all the teams available, is the best 16 to have. You do have two teams in three different states, but it's a lot better than three teams in one state and they're in areas that are positioned well. It makes the entire USFL North Division insanely close together. You're talking about just a teeny bit of distance between them. And then same with the USFL South Division being very similar as well. Now, the XFL side is where it kind of gets a little screwed up overall, but you'd have a West Division and you'd have an East Division for the XFL. So, what this would essentially go to is you would have the East Division being in the XFL Conference, where you have the Battlehawks, Defenders, Guardians, and Renegades. Then the West Division with the Vipers, Wildcats, Roughnecks, and Sea Dragons. Then the USFL Conference, you'd have a North and South Division. North would be the Maulers, Stars, Panthers, and Generals, and the South would be the Breakers, Showboats, Bandits, and Stallions. So this would end up meaning that the Brahmas and the Gamblers get cut, 2 Texas teams, surprise, and this is what you'd have. Now, the reason I think that these division formats are also the best for this league, if they wanted to, start out with this, is that you'd be able to have a couple of rivalries that would add on. Naturally, division rivalry is always a big deal. So the fact is there'll be division rivalries that'll come out in the West Division and East Division in the XFL, but you're keeping a Texas rivalry in the sense that that one game they play against each other between the Renegades and Roughnecks would be a big deal. And then, of course, the USFL side, you're keeping the Pennsylvania rivalry, but actually having it instead of just it being a Pennsylvania rivalry and they don't play there. But you're keeping the 2 biggest rivalries from the USFL. You're keeping the Panthers Maulers and the Stallions Breakers. You do lose the Stallions Gamblers, but I think that overall this would be the best format to start the league. Again, this is all a theoretical what 16 teams I would choose. It's not the exact way that I was suggested, but this is how I would do it. These 16 teams, if they all were profitable, would be the best 16 teams available to start the new league. You'd have a ton of room to add expansion teams. You could bring back teams like the Denver Gold or the Arizona Wranglers from the OG USFL. You could maybe go back and try and get those old XFL teams from the Vince McMahon 2001 version. And it overall gives you a lot of options. Whereas the way it's kind of feeling like it's going in the real life situation is it feels like we're going to just fully stack up East teams and then bring back maybe a couple West later and make it really weird for expansion. This is what I would personally do. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you were to make this league with 16 teams and all the cities available to you, what would you choose? Do you think that if this was the 16 teams that were actually picked to be the final 16, this is a good one? Let me know down below. This has been ZomFox. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We're getting close to 500 subscribers for the Q&A. We have a giveaway at 1,000 subs, and as always, have a great night.